Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop. And this is my first impressions look on Keldon Johnson's shoe. So if you guys didn't know, he has a shoe and he signed to QD Sports, I guess. I didn't even know QD Sports was a thing, but yeah, it's a Chinese company. And this is the Keldon Johnson Spike Rise 2. So it's available over at Famuji for $100, which is a very nice price because also you get carbon fiber. Right, and I feel like for the price, it's actually pretty good, although the upper does feel kind of cheap. So yeah, if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave in a free link in the description box. But yeah, as far as the overall design goes, I really like how the shoe looks. And the most striking feature about the shoe, of course, is the logo. And I didn't know this was their logo because in all their other shoes, they don't really have this logo. Maybe it's new, I don't know. But then it's literally just a Nike swoosh with like a kind of that's a swoosh, right? So and also their logo is kind of, yeah, I don't know, but either way, whatever. How does the shoe feel and does it feel good so far? We'll have to get on into that, but let's get started off with the traction. So first of all, we have a decoupled outsole. So we have a forefoot piece and a heel piece. And also, I don't really know if it's rubber. They're calling it the QASU outsole tech. And it actually doesn't really feel like rubber. It feels almost like a harder plastic almost, you know what I mean? But yeah, here in the heel, we have a translucent kind of rubber, and then here in the heel, or not rubber, but you guys know what I mean, right? And then here in the forefoot, we have a kind of like black, it's like a solid black outsole, right? So how does the traction feel? It feels kind of not good, right? And also for their outsole tech, they are saying that it has increased durability by 50%. Which is kind of insane, you know, compared to regular rubber outsoles, and added 25% slip resistance. I don't know how they got that, but yeah, it doesn't feel good, you know. So I'll just, you know, I got the shoe in and I tried it on my wood floors, and it is sliding around a lot. The bite seems pretty dang bad too. And of course, we have this wavy herringbone traction pattern. And also for durability, you should be fine. However, right, the rubber is, or whatever this material is very, very hard, right? And we have some microscopic grooves on the actual kind of wavy herringbone traction pattern, but also nothing that I like what they did is that here where the ball of your foot is, you know, that's where you're going to be putting a lot of pressure, right? And that is a highway area, so they put more grooves there. So I like how they added that for extra durability, but just on my wood floors. I also played just like a couple of games in it the other day, and the traction just didn't seem that good. It was sliding around the ground. For some reason, it was just like on certain stops, it would stop really well, like on lateral movements, but like going forward and just like, it would just slide around, you know? So I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to break in or something because they're saying like, oh, 25% improved slip resistance and all that. But right now it's not feeling too good, you know? And as far as dust performance goes, I mean, I don't think it'll trap dust because the grooves are pretty spaced apart, but I don't know, the traction is not feeling too good. So again, we'll have to see on that, but there is the outsole there. Moving on to the heel to toe transition, it does feel pretty dang smooth and kind of springy, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice rounded shape with a fully exposed midsole pretty much. So it's very, very soft here in the heel, right? So that feels nice. And then here in the forefoot, we got a nice curved shape. So just from the shape, it feels very smooth. But also here in the forefoot, it says we do, well, obviously we have a carbon fiber midfoot chain plate, but it also says we have a carbon fiber forefoot plate, which I can't really see, you know, and also it doesn't really feel like it's all the way into the forefoot, but it seems to come around all the way into here, right? So it kind of bends like at the tip of the toe a little bit, but for the most part, it's a pretty stiff feeling shoe in the forefoot with a little bit of springiness, which I do like, right? So yeah, it feels really nice for the heel to toe transition. Now moving on to the cushioning setup. So yeah, the tech is pretty, the naming is pretty funny, right? So literally they're calling this the Q Kung Fu Pro Foam. Yeah, I don't know about the name, but it also says it right here on the medial side. So that's a pretty funny name, but it does feel pretty soft here in the heel. There's a little bit of compression. It does feel nice. However, the cork feels really good, right? Here in the forefoot, you're super duper low to the ground. Here the heel gets a little bit higher up off the ground, but it's still really good for cork feel. You have a little bit of an offset, of course, as well. But it doesn't feel super bouncy for the overall foam. It just feels like there's a little bit of compression. It's kind of soft, you know? For the insole it's all right. It's not super nice. It's, you know, it's thin. It doesn't have that much give to it. It's not super foamy. So a step-in comfort isn't super nice from the actual foam. But also for the strobo board is actually quite soft. You know, it looks like a traditional strobo board, but when I press it with my finger, there's actually a little bit of give to it. And also you can see a lot of holes, you know? So step-in comfort from the actual foam is pretty nice, you know what I mean? It's not super nice, however, because like I said, the overall foam is thin and you are low to the ground. But it's kind of nice, you know what I mean? So I feel like they were trying to go for more of like a lower to the ground, really responsive feel for like guards, which I feel like they so far they did pretty well, you know what I mean? So we'll have to see on overall impact protection and how the foam breaks in, you know? Is it gonna get bouncier? Is it gonna bottom out very quickly? We'll have to see on all that, but right now it feels pretty nice so far, right? Now moving on to the upper. So the upper kinda not that nice, honestly. It feels really cheap, you know what I mean? And it reminds me of like old school, kind of like 2012, 2015 almost. Kind of like cheaper shoes. So it's basically like this really cheap feeling mesh material, and we have some underlaying kind of fused material. It's like glued down a little bit, right? So here in the toe box is pretty dang soft, and it does feel, you know, stiffer and all that where the underlaying material is, but it just feels really cheap and kind of crappy, you know? And also durability doesn't seem like it'll be the best, right? And also for the tongue has no padding, has zero padding, which I really don't like. In my personal opinion, I like to have a you know, cozier type of feel on top of my foot, but I feel like a thinner kind of no foam and also more minimal feel for the tongue and on top of your foot. This is good, right? It's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit, and the tongue is connected to this like really open mesh material. But I guess one good thing is that there's a lot of airflow through this entire upper, right? And also in the midfoot area, we can see this logo, of course, but there are a couple of windows through it, and we have one flywire cable here on the lateral side, and it kind of connects all the way here into the midsole, and you can see it exposed right here through the windows on the logo. You know, we also have two flywire cables, one right here on the medial side and one right here. So obviously flywire is Nike, but you know, that's what we call it. You know what I mean? And also here in the ankle area, we have very minimal padding. It has padding like on top right here of the ankle, but on the sides it's pretty dang minimal. And then here in the ankle, it does get a little bit thicker, but it's still pretty minimal, right? So yeah, I mean, I guess it feels pretty nice on foot. You know, it feels overall pretty supportive. Ventilation feels good and all that. It's thin, it's very minimal, but it just feels cheap and it looks cheap, you know? So I wish they would have used something different, but again, it feels pretty nice on foot. So there's that. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to size, and this shoe fits me pretty dang well, although it is a little bit long and also a little narrow, you know what I mean? So I feel like, you know, if I did go down half a size, however, it might be too snug lengthwise, so just be careful with that. I feel like most people, you should be fine going true to size. It's just gonna be a tad bit long. But again, like if you do go down half a size, it'll probably be a little too snug lengthwise, so probably don't go down half a size, right? Here in the toe box, it's like normal snugness. You know, it does scrunch up a little bit here in the toe box, and the width-wise, however, it is pretty narrow. You know what I mean? It's not uncomfortable and painful, but I would say a little uncomfortable, but it's squeezing the side of my foot a little bit, you know what I mean? So it's an okay fit for me. And now moving on to the support and lockdown, I feel like it'll be pretty good. You know, here in the forefoot, although there's not like a crazy lateral counter, we have this fused material, and it actually stiffens up the material a little bit. The rubber outsole comes up a little bit as well, and we have the the flywire cable. Yeah, that's not really gonna do anything, right? But here in the heel, we also do, it seems like there's an internal TPU heel counter, as well as this kind of like plastic piece with their logo right here. And also whatever this thing is, I don't, why is this here? What is this thing? It's not a pull tab, but either way, there is the lateral containment, also lateral stability. Look at this, it's a very, very wide base here in the forefoot. So that feels pretty good so far, and I'm not really experiencing any type of heel slippage. And now moving on to the weight of the shoe. So that is the one thing that really surprised me when I first got these, right? So I took it out of the box and I was like, yo, these feel extremely freaking light. Like not even like 10 ounces, you know? So I'm very, very curious as to what the weight is. I'm guessing like 10. Yo, 9.6 ounces, guys. Let's check the other shoe. 9.65 ounces. So that's extremely light. I think that is the lightest hoop shoe that you can get right now as far as number weight goes. You know what I mean? Like I think the weight flash was like 10 something ounces, which is extremely light. You know, the average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces, but going to 9.5 ounces around there is extremely light. Extremely light. So yeah, I mean, it does feel cheap. The overall upper does feel really cheap, but the overall kind of like structure of the shoe, like the sole with the carbon fiber, it feels pretty nice. You know what I mean? Because usually cheaper shoes don't have a mid-foot chain plate, and with the really crappy kind of feeling upper that's super minimal with a very flexible sole of the shoe, $80 shoes, you know, like very cheap shoes from like Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas, they feel cheap, but for this shoe, it's just the upper that feels a little bit cheap, but the overall kind of like structure of the shoe underneath your foot feels pretty good. And now moving on to the aesthetics, I really like it, and a lot of people are saying that it looks like a GT Cut, like the GT Cut 1. You know what I mean? I can see it a little bit, you know, especially with the knockoff kind of like Nike swoosh. You know what I mean? They just kind of added this part. But I do like the overall design. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I don't like about this shoe, but I'm gonna need to fully test them and see how it breaks in, right? So the traction is feeling not so good. The cushion is feeling alright, but it does feel low to the ground and responsive. The upper, it feels pretty nice on foot, but it does feel very, very cheap for the quality. And also we'll have to see on, you know, if the overall upper is supportive. Especially since it's so dang lightweight, right? So my first impressions of the shoe are, they're okay, you know what I mean? But they're not feeling that good right now, because when I first, you know, looked at the tech specs and all that, and I was like, and it looked pretty good, I was like, oh, I'm pretty dang excited to try these out. And I opened the box, took the shoes out of the box, and it felt extremely light, so I was very impressed. But then, you know, I was walking around in it, and I played in it like I said, just for a couple games, and they're feeling alright so far. So anyways, that about concludes my first impressions look on the Keldon Johnson Spike Rise 2. Again, if you guys do want to cop a try to leave in the free link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.